Welcome, everyone, inside my home studio here. It is Friday, January 21st, 2022, and this is Mike Saves Hockey. I am your host, as always, Mike Straw. Here, you can follow me on Twitter at Mike Straw Media. Have a fun show lined up today. Before we get into that, make sure you are following us on Twitter at Full Press NHL, on Facebook, Full Press NHL, Full Press Coverage, YouTube, Full Press Coverage. Go subscribe there and follow us on Twitch, Full Press Coverage. Today, we're talking a couple things. I'm going to be saving, and by saving, I mean getting rid of the NHL All Star Game. I'm going to be getting rid of the NHL jersey rule. Not a fan of what they do now. And I'm a fan of a certain league's rules and policies, and we'll get into that momentarily. But a bit of a programming note for the time being. Mike Saves Hockey will be twice a month, every other week here on Full Press Coverage due to scheduling commitments, conflicts, and things of that nature. It's going to be a fun time. Nevertheless, should have plenty to talk about. We got some guests coming up on future shows that I'm working on finalizing, and I can't wait to bring in more on that. But now, let's talk about the game of hockey. Last episode, a couple weeks ago, we talked a few things. We talked about the NHL officiating problem. We talked about fixing overtime rules. We talked about just standings, the 3-2-1 point system. A lot to talk about, right? This week, not as much, but there's still plenty to talk about. I don't know why the NHL will start. Let's dive right into this. Let's talk jerseys. The NHL jerseys are some of the most beautiful jerseys. And I'm not going to talk about ads on the jerseys ever. We all have those same thoughts, I'm pretty sure. They're not really the best. I don't like them. I don't want them to be here. I want them to go away, never to come back. But inevitably, it's going to happen. So, what can we change about what they do to make jerseys fun? And what got me on this is the leak the other day with the Buffalo Sabres. And let me load that up. The NHL put out, or not the NHL, but a shop in the Czech Republic, I believe it was, leaked out that the Buffalo Sabres are going to be bringing back the red and black goat head jerseys that were used from 1996 to 2006. And I'm not going to lie, that had me super excited because obviously nostalgia is a hell of a thing. You find these things in your more formative years, your teenage years or adolescence, and they just stick with you. And they have stuck with me in a big way. The Sabres were never more successful in my life than during those eras. But we're looking at a jersey. Here, let me get for those that want to see that haven't seen it, I'll throw it up on the screen for you if you are watching. And we have the jersey, and it looks good. I mean, it's been confirmed that this is, at least Aesthetics confirmed it with the source of his, and pretty reliable, that we will be getting a new jersey here. Obviously, there's some issues here with the image, the red stripes, but they updated the goat head. The B has the same neck hanger effect here, but looks like the black goat head jerseys are coming back in 2022-2023 for the Buffalo Sabres. So I saw that, and it was really fun. And I was wondering, what could we do with the NHL jerseys to make them more fun? And I'm not just talking about bringing this type of stuff with nostalgia and things like that, but make people want to buy your jerseys. Like, make people want to buy them. And one league that I think does it really, really well is the NBA. Years back, the NBA stopped doing home and road jerseys. Instead, they started giving them names like the city jerseys. They have their throwback jerseys. And they don't necessarily dictate whether they're used on at home, on the road. They're just used throughout the year. And for the longest time, the NHL has been darks at home and colors on the road, or whites on the road, which I'm not a fan of. I'm a fan of, to be honest, I'm a fan more so of whites at home if they're going to go that route. But I'm much more of a fan of the idea of it doesn't matter when they're worn, just let them wear them. Set at the beginning of the season a lineup of jerseys and let the teams go. So you have 3 jerseys. Teams have their 3rd jersey. A lot of teams, some teams have a 4th jersey. And that's the route I would like to see the NHL go. Make people want to buy your jersey. Like, you have your standard home and away colors that you've had. Then incorporate something fun that changes every year. The NBA does their city jerseys and their new designs every year. And I would love to see the NHL do something along those lines where they incorporate something brand new every single year with all teams. The reverse retro look last year was amazing. And I thought that's kind of where we were going. I would have loved to see it with a full season and not a shortened 56 game season. But I was hoping that we'd see it as the start of something, and it didn't appear to be the case, which is kind of a bummer in my mind. I was one of those people that I used to be old-fashioned as short as 5-6 years ago because I just didn't think it would work. With how well it worked with the NBA, it had me on board. Give me 4 jerseys a year each team. Give me 2 that rarely change, but enough of the you have to use a jersey for 3 years or 2 seasons rule before you can swap and change out. And I get for production and things like that. But moving to something along the lines of letting teams get weird. So the 90s were a really weird time with jerseys. Obviously, we had Gordon Fisherman, we had the LA Kings, we had the Burger King jersey, right? We had Tampa Bay with their waves and then the lightning down the arms and the rain and Robo Penguin, which underrated logo, I will say. I really dig that Robo Penguin logo that Pittsburgh used for a while, but at least they tried something different. People are so stuck in their ways with old fashioned of, well, Chicago can't change. Montreal can't change. Sure, they can. You can keep the traditional 2 jerseys that you already have, but every year try something different. Try something fun. People weren't the best at accepting that type of change in the 90s. People didn't really accept. Remember when Florida went with their jet blue jerseys? Granted, in hindsight, it was clearly a case of they had a deal with JetBlue becoming a primary sponsor. It seemed like it was just a little too coincidental. They have the same color scheme, but at least they tried something, and I kind of like them. And I wish more and more teams would. Now, there are teams that go in the opposite direction when they try something new. When you look at the Dallas Stars back when they just had Dallas over the front, And those were hideous. Those were miserable, but they were so boring. They were just like a t-shirt with Dallas, a long sleeve shirt tee with Dallas on it. So it makes sense why those didn't work. But the jersey thing isn't really what I really wanted to talk about this episode. This week, we are primarily going to talk about the NHL All Star Game and how to fix the NHL All Star Game. And to me, there's one way to fix the NHL All Star Game. Get rid of it. Get rid of it entirely. No one needs it. No one wants it. And by no one, I mean me. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't need it. But I'm not even going to use COVID, though. I mean, now in this environment right now, having all these players get together for an event like this probably isn't the smartest idea in the current state of things. But it's just an unnecessary thing that I've never liked All-Star games. I've never wanted them. I get it's like it's a place you get all these guys together. They can have fun. They can do this. They can do that. But it's still not something that's needed. It's the exact opposite. They're completely and utterly useless. Give them all pros and things like that and then be done with it, because I don't need it. Yeah, they went to 3-on-3 not too long back, and it seemed to spark some entertainment. I mean, the most joy I had is when John Scott got in the All-Star game and won MVP. That was the most joy I've ever had watching an All-Star event, because the NHL got trolled at their own game, and it made me so happy to see. But it wasn't something that we necessarily needed to see anymore. Like, we didn't need that change. We didn't need them to go to 3-on-3. I get they did it because 3-on-3 overtime and they wanted something new, and it's a mockery. Like, the skills competition's fun. It's cool. You don't need that. I could take it or leave it. I just don't get it. Like, one thing, if they're going to keep it, get rid of the every team has to have an all-star. Every team does not have to have an all-star. If they're great players, the best players should be on the all-star teams. Not a case of, well, every team needs to have an all-star. No, that's not how this works. That's not how it should work. That's not how any all-star game should ever work. There's no need for it. To put, like, years ago when Zemgus Girgensons, good player, solid player, not an all-star, but he was on the all-star team. I just don't get, like, anybody. No one thinks when you look at a team like the Arizona Coyotes and you go all-stars. No one thinks when you look at the Buffalo Sabres and you go definite all-stars. Like, Rasmus Dahlin's in, he's played well this year, but not a definite all-star. Like, you don't look at teams and you don't look at, like, the Central, and you don't look at Arizona and go, they definitely have an all-star. Like, Clayton Keller's a good player, not an all-star. You mean you couldn't find, like, another Colorado Avalanche or Nashville, for example? Nashville has had a remarkable season. Absolutely remarkable for where many expected them to be to where they are. They're currently second in the Central Division. They've had a great year. And yet, for some reason, they have one all-star, and that's UC Saros. Well-deserving. 100%. Roman Josi. 42 points as a defenseman. 42 points, 40 games. Not an all-star, because you have to put someone from Arizona in that lineup. Like it's kind of nuts to me. Like I get it. Like in the Central itself, they have one defenseman. It's Cal McCarr, and it's completely like again, best players deserve to make it, and Roman Yossi not being in it, whether he shows or not and plays in it, I don't care. But if you're gonna name an all-star team, you need to have the all-stars of your game. And Roman Yossi at a +8 doesn't really matter, plus minus. 42 points in 40 games as a defenseman. But no, he's got to be in for someone like Clayton Keller on the league's second worst team in Arizona. Clayton Keller has to be on there. 30 points in 38 games. Again, make it make sense. If you're going to have rosters, make it the best players, period. That's why I don't like divisions. I get why they do the divisions because the little all-star tournament, but it drastically limits the players because you can't have all these. I mean, you're giving up spots for teams that deserve it for teams and players that don't. I just don't get it. It makes no sense to me. For example, another example of this, the case of the divisions leading to players being left out of the All-Star game. Take a look at the Detroit Red Wings. All right, they're not having the greatest year. They're middle of the pack, run of the table, 41 points, 40 games, 7 points out of a wild card spot, 3 games more played. But when you look at the team, just Dylan Larkin was the only one. 36 points in 35 games. Dylan Larkin, the only all-star to come from Detroit. Why not Tyler Bertuzzi? But no, you have to, for at least the division, you have to get a spot for someone from Ottawa. You got to get a spot for someone from Buffalo. And it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it. Florida, 1 all-star. 1. The Florida Panthers, 1 all-star. For what reason other than you have to fill a space with everybody from every team? So there's number 1. Put the actual all-stars in there. Like Jonathan Huberdeau is all-star level, 54 points in 40 games. Like that's incredible. But you have players like Aaron Ekblad, another one, defenseman, almost a point per game. Point per game defensemen to me are all-stars. That's just how I feel, and that's how I'll always feel. So there's one. If you're going to have all-star rosters, get rid of the end games, get rid of the requirements for every team to have it. Every team does not need an all-star because not every team is worthy of it. Plain and simple. There could, and we'll just move on from that. Now, the games, the 3-on-3 tournament, I'm not a fan of. I get it. You have it in one night, you have more games, but it kind of becomes unwatchable. Like there's no, I don't want to say there's no effort because I don't want there to be effort because of the fact I don't want injuries. And that's another point I'll get into in a minute. But I don't want any sort of watered down product. Like I don't watch a hockey game to watch a full game of not hockey. Plain simple. Like I thought games 5-on-5 all-star games were fun. They weren't going full boat, so it's not like there weren't goals. I get why you did it. You 3-on-3 overtime, trying something new and exciting. But to me, like 3-on-3 overtime, it's just dull. And I'm more of a fan of, if you're going to do it, at least have the game be played like how the game's played throughout the year, and have it at least be 5-on-5. And have it be a normal hockey game. The players aren't going to go full boat and hit each other and everything, but have it be a normal hockey game. Plain and simple. Have there be power plays. Have there be things like that if need be. Let it be more enjoyable than what it was. The NHL All Star Game has continued to decline in the ratings. I don't think the 3-on-3 really worked too much, but I would be interested in going back to I didn't even mind the draft. Let the teams draft their all-stars. That was enjoyable. That added something, but why not go back to just doing East and West? The North American versus the world was enjoyable. I think that could be fun bringing that back. Or every year you try some different type of team build. So 1 year you have North America versus the world. 1 year you have East and West. 1 year you set a borderline and you go North and South for teams in the league. I don't know. Like, or you go really weird and you have a division from the East and a division from the West team up, and then division against the other two divisions, one from each conference. Like, do something different to let players play with people they won't necessarily see. Imagine now they're on two different teams, but anybody in Buffalo knows the friendship that Jack Eichel and Sam Reinhart had. Say next year they're both All-Stars, and rather than going against each other, imagine if, because it's All-Star weekend, they're on the same team again somehow. I think a lot of Buffalo Sabres fans sadly would watch that, knowing what they had and what never worked out. But that's one thing I'm really interested in seeing how they decide to switch that up. Why not? I don't know. Bring in women's leagues. I mean, will you do something with the Premier Hockey Federation? Probably not, because the NHL has said if they're going to do anything with women's hockey, it's going to involve them. Even though there's the PHF right there. Not saying they need the NHL, but it would bring more eyes to it, right? I'm also a type, why not? This is weird. Here's something. This one is kind of out there. Why not change the time of when you do the All-Star game instead of the middle of the season? Why not, for the heck of it, do the All-Star game before the season starts? Or at the end of the season? I get it. Teams are tired after a long season, or training camps just beginning, but I don't know. I'm just, what will draw interest? If there's an All-Star game at the beginning of the year, that'd be pretty cool. Who are the All-Stars last season? Also, coaching. Let alumni coach the All-Star teams. We don't need All-Star coaches. We don't need NHL coaches as All-Star coaches. Let's bring in alumni. Let them set the lines. Let them make all the decisions. How awesome would that be to see someone like Scott Niedermayer come in and he's coaching the Metropolitan Division if they still went with the divisions? What about doing something like that? How fun would that be? There's a lot that we could do with it. Ultimately, I think it should just go away. Give them the nod of, like, for contract incentives and bonuses. Say, all right, you're an all-star. elect him, but don't let him have the game, because that follows up to my next point is injuries. I get they're not going super hard. I get that. But at the end of the day, and I know it can happen in any game, but at least those other games matter to the teams. This is a game that a player's not playing for his team and he somehow gets injured on a freak accident, out for the season, all because they played in a stupid All-Star game. I'm not a fan of it. I just don't like it. And that's, again, I know with that argument, I've gotten the old, you're just a cynic, you're a old fogey, you're this, you're that, you're that. But I do think there is some warrant to the belief of why the NHL, like that risk of injury. So one thing I remember doing or seeing growing up and watching back is international games between NHL teams and international teams. I get the logistics might be tough, but if you're going to have an all-star event, don't have it all-stars playing, NHL all-stars playing each other. I kind of like what Major League Soccer also does for their all-star if they're going to have it. They have their team of all-stars play an international team. I don't care if it's an international team of all-stars who aren't in the NHL. I would love to see them work out something, an NHL all-star team versus a KHL all-star team. That would be incredible. Don't think that ever happens at all. But why not do something international on that front? Like, I feel that right there could be a great way to build interest in your game. Like, yeah, there's the Olympics, there's World Cup of Hockey if that ever comes back. There's the World Championships every year. But it's not a case of that really draws the attention of a lot of people, especially the World Championships. But the idea of an all-star, you have your all-star event, and you have an international team of all-stars come in to face your team of all-stars. Yes, you're limiting the amount of NHLers that get into the all-star event. But to me, I think that'd be more entertaining to watch. You get to watch these players go up against players that they don't ever get to go up against. And to me, that would be pretty cool. That would be the one thing I think that would, to me, make me want to keep an actual all-star game. Is that. But I'd love to know your thoughts as we get ready to wind down this shortened edition of Mike Saves Hockey, because time constraints caused me a delay in starting due to meetings prior. But you can follow me on Twitter at Mike Straw Media. It's right up there if you're listening on Full Press Radio at Mike Straw Media. You can check us out at fullpresshockey.com. Great team of writers. You can check us out Tuesday nights at 8 for Full Press Hockey Weekly. You can check us out on Twitter, Full Press NHL, on Twitch, Full Press Coverage, YouTube, Full Press Coverage. Anywhere you get your shows, you can check us out. So the last thing I want to talk about before we wrap this up, and it's something really small. It's something kind of nitpicky. Kind of, I don't know. I don't know if it's even worth trying to fix, because what can you do to fix it? And this is something really, really dumb that I thought of. Can we stop having AHL teams in the same city as an NHL team? Actually, I take that back. If we're going to have that, can we please stop having the AHL and NHL teams that are in the same city not being affiliates of each other? Like, there's the Chicago Blackhawks, and in Chicago, they have the Chicago Wolves. Are they affiliated right now? No. No, they're not. You know who they are affiliated with? The Carolina Hurricanes, who had been affiliated with the Charlotte Checkers. Makes sense that they'd be affiliated. Raleigh, Charlotte. Would make sense the Blackhawks and Wolves would be affiliated. Wolves, Chicago. But no. Can't have that. You had Chicago and St. Louis for a while. You had Chicago and Vegas. You had Chicago and Atlanta. They were Atlanta's farm club from 01, almost Atlanta's entire existence. You had Chicago and Vancouver. They've been in Chicago. Like Columbus and the Cleveland Monsters make sense. Buffalo, Rochester. Toronto. They actually do it. The Marlies and Maple Leafs. But no, you don't. There's certain situations that just doesn't make sense to me. But that's how I'm going to wrap up. Again, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Mike Straw Media on Twitter. Next time we come on the air, we'll have a full hour show working on getting some great guests. Tune in Tuesday night for Full Press Hockey Weekly. Enjoy some hockey. Also working on some new segments for the next Mike Saves Hockey. Until then, take care, everyone. Be safe. And I will speak to you again real soon.